Who are the dumbest criminals alive? Let's find out, starting with number 6, Bad Company. A pair of brainless dancers stole a Boston police officer's weapon while spending time with him in his hotel room. The cop, whose name was left out of the report for some reason, arranged to meet a girl named Niche Natalia Rivera, who he met on Instagram at a Rhode Island bar. The pair ended up meeting at the Nara Lounge in Providence, Rhode Island, where they met up with Melissa Dacier. After Nara Lounge, the trio headed to the Cadillac Lounge Club. Sounds fancy, right? The Cadillac Lounge. How exciting! Way better than the Pontiac Lounge down the street. Anyway, while they were on their way to the Cadillac Lounge, for some dumb reason, the officer mentioned that he locked his service weapon with a cable lock inside the glove compartment of his BMW. You know, in case the trustworthy ladies he met online and at the club were curious where his weapon was. Rivera and Dacier accompanied the cop back to his hotel for some alone time. Towards the end of their time together, Dacier asked to borrow the officer's phone charger. So he handed her his keys and she went to his car. Shortly after she returned, she said she needed to make a phone call and stepped out of the room. After Dacier was gone for a while, Rivera, or Natalia, as the officer knew her, went to look for her friend. Some time passed before the officer realized the women weren't coming back. He checked on his car and saw that the glove box was open and the cable lock box was in one of the seats. That's when he realized his service weapon was missing, and he called the police. He explained about Natalia, who Pawtucket police identified as Niche Rivera, a dancer at the Foxy Lady Club, who was charged with providing adult services a few months before this incident. Dacier also had past charges as well. Since Niche was dumb enough to give the officer her Instagram, it was easy for authorities to track down the two women and arrest them. They were held without bail as violators of their previous charges and were charged with felony larceny of a firearm and conspiracy. What do you think about cops that hang out with exotic dancers? Is it a fair way for them to blow off steam, or does it place them a little too close to a position where they can make mistakes? Number 5, DoorDash disguise. DoorDash driver Juliana Sagaram decided to use her food delivery gig as a cover for a porch piracy scheme. She was caught on camera pretending to deliver food to homes while actually swiping packages from people's doorsteps. It seems that her dumb plan didn't take into account the fact that, like, everyone has a Ring camera on their front doors. Sagaram, who's from Queens, embarked on a 2-day spree of using her DoorDash status to dupe residents into believing she was delivering their meals, but karma finally caught up with her. One person realized his package was missing and reported it, and surprisingly, it triggered an investigation, since it normally seems like law enforcement doesn't do much about package thieves. The scheme unraveled when doorbell camera footage showed Sagaram in action. Dressed in a bright orange skirt and a black crop top with sunglasses, she approached the doors of houses, appearing to leave a DoorDash bag on the doorstep. But instead of walking away after delivering the food, she swiped the package, taking both the stolen goods and bag of food, and ran away. Sagaram's actions show how porch pirates have gotten more creative in their attempts to snatch packages, often exploiting their day jobs to do it. With so many doorbell security cameras capturing every move, her dumb scam would hardly go unnoticed. Sagaram's eventual arrest led to her being charged with 2 counts of petit larceny and given an appearance ticket. As more homeowners employ security measures to protect their parcels, porch pirates like Sagaram must find better tactics or consider another career choice. To truly succeed in their shady endeavors, porch pirates must either find residences without cameras or become magicians who can disappear into thin air. Or maybe just stop stealing from people. Number 4, Tree of Andre Therapy. Thomas Elric used his position in the National Health Service, a publicly funded healthcare system in the UK, to pay himself over £500,000 through a fake company he created with his wife's email. Elric could only make these payments because he worked as the assistant managing director for planned and unscheduled care at Harrow Clinical Commissioning Group. His position meant he could approve payments of up to £50,000 with minimal oversight. But instead of keeping his head down and doing honest work, Elric thought that it was best to use his position to enrich himself. And in order to do that, he came up with a fairly stupid ruse. He created a company called Tree of Andre Therapy Services Limited and paid the company around £564,000 through fraudulent invoices. He made the payments 28 times, so this was pretty much a routine for him. Elric registered the company in Scotland, and the money paid to the firm went straight into a bank account registered under his name. Elric also had a brilliant plan to cover up his tracks. He took over his wife's email account and he used it to send an email to the NHS claiming to be from the Tree of Andre Therapy Services. The email contained anonymized details of fictional patients and made his operation look legitimate. It does sound like a good plan, but there was just one tiny problem with it. His wife had passed away 8 years earlier. Why he would choose to use his wife's email instead of just creating a new email is anyone's guess. If anyone even peeked at that transaction, they would quickly discover it was fraudulent because she's already passed and she was his wife. It wouldn't take a genius to put two and two together. Elric had plenty of fun while the going was good. He traveled around the world, stayed in 5-star hotels, and spent small fortunes dining in top restaurants. He also spent healthy sums on Amazon, Apple, and health club David Lloyd. Unfortunately, Elric couldn't live the good life forever. One day, a colleague looked at his invoices and found the name of Elric's fictional company a bit suspicious. So he dug around and found out that Tree of Andre Therapy Services wasn't registered on the Care Quality Commission website. The colleague then found out that the company was linked to Elric. This set off a full-blown investigation that led a police raid on Elric's home. Further investigation revealed that Elric always made sure the invoices from the Tree of Andre were always allocated to him, and he was the one making the approvals. In the end, Elric had his day in court and was charged with fraud. He admitted that he'd set up the company to defraud the NHS and said he was sorry. The judge said he misused his position and hurt many patients who could have benefited from the money he stole. He was eventually sentenced to 3 years and 8 months in jail. One way to prevent crimes like this is to make sure that someone else cross-checks approved invoices. Giving one person the power to check and approve invoices leads to situations like this, and creating a checks and balance system will most likely eradicate such scams. And if you're going to set up a fake company to commit fraud, probably don't use your deceased wife's email. Number 3. Cleveland? 2 fast food restaurant workers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, had quite a strange encounter during an armed robbery. The suspect, Cleveland Willis, who entered a KFC restaurant wearing a black ski mask, faced a memorable identification from his victims. The robbery occurred when Willis walked into the restaurant dressed in all black and was carrying a pistol. He pointed it at one of the employees, pulled back the slide, and demanded money. In response, both employees quickly opened 2 cash registers, surrendering a total of just over $600 to the would-be robber. The victims, despite Willis's attempt at concealing his identity, quickly recognized him as a former co-worker. They recognized his voice and distinctive facial features that remained visible through the holes in his mask. While one of the victims stood with their hands up, they said, "Cleveland? Is that you?" Willis responded that no, it wasn't him. But it was. It seems that Willis underestimated how well his co-workers knew him. Next, in his attempt to escape the scene of the crime, he took off in a silver Nissan Altima, the same car he used while working at the restaurant. This only added to the evidence stacked against him. Following the incident, Cleveland Willis was arrested by the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, charging him with armed robbery. Obviously, Cleveland wasn't a criminal mastermind, but how dumb would you need to be to think you'd get away with robbing your most recent job? He even drove his own car. It makes you wonder if, when they asked if it was him and he said no, if he thought that was good enough to fool everyone. He was like, "Man, how'd they know it was me? I said it wasn't me, and I didn't even park in the same spot I normally do." Number 2. The parking scam. In Houston, Texas, a man allegedly left a restaurant, discharged a firearm at a fake parking attendant who had just swindled him out of $40, and then returned to continue his date. Eric Aguirre, the alleged assailant, was already on probation. While dining with an unnamed woman, they parked separately in a lot in Houston's Edu neighborhood. There, they met Elliot Nix, a man who was posing as a parking attendant, convincing the couple to hand over $40 for parking. However, Aguirre and his date soon realized they had been scammed. A waiter at the restaurant recognized the fake parking attendant and warned the couple about the scam. Aguirre became furious since he had just been had and was already carrying a firearm because he's in Texas, so of course he was. So he left his date inside and chased Nix down the street. The confrontation led to Nix passing on the side of the road. Aguirre acted nonchalantly after the incident, returning to his car to stow away his weapon before heading back to the restaurant. There, he reassured his date that everything was fine and he had only scared Nix. It was only a matter of time before law enforcement responded to the incident. Police officers were called, discovered Nix's body, and began their investigation. Aguirre's date remained in the dark about the events until police released photos of the two individuals together, identifying them as persons of interest. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the woman contacted the police, provided a statement, and cooperated with the authorities. After a warrant was issued for his arrest, Aguirre was captured in his hometown of Corpus Christi and brought back to Harris County. He faced charges in connection with Nix's passing. It's stupid that this guy, who was already in trouble with the law, basically assured himself that he was going to jail for a long time, over $40. And he just went back to eat because apparently he's a total psychopath. Can you imagine what his date was like finding out what happened days later? How was the date? Oh, it was good. Other than this weird part in the middle of dinner. Looks like she may have literally dodged a bullet. If you're loving these stories, be sure to stay tuned right on this video for even more dumb criminals. Number 1. The Big Bluff. Melissa Love, a mom from the UK, had a bad experience trying to purchase Taylor Swift tickets for her teenage daughter. She hatched a plan to turn the tables on the scammer and recover her money. Melissa's ordeal began when she came across a great ticket offer on a community group on Facebook. An individual by the name of Dave Shepard appeared to be a legitimate seller, had mutual friends, and a convincing profile. Melissa thought she found the sought-after Taylor Swift tickets and transferred £680 to this guy. However, her excitement soon turned into disappointment when the tickets never arrived. It became apparent that Dave Shepard, who initially passed the vibe check, was in fact a Russian scammer who had successfully conned her. Frustrated, but not defeated, Melissa decided to take matters into her own hands. She fabricated documents suggesting she had contacted her bank's fraud team and heavily implied that they could trace the scammer's IP address. To make the deception even better, she falsely referred to the International Banking Act of 1979, then created a fake alliance of fellow villagers who were supposedly working to expose the scammer. One friend in on the ruse claimed to have connections in Wise, a payment services company, and said that they had prosecuted numerous scammers. In reality, it was all a fabrication, but it played on the scammer's fear. After a weekend of skillful manipulation and what she humorously dubbed as scamming the scammer, Melissa was thrilled to find the money returned to her bank account on Monday morning. This story showcases how one person's determination and resourcefulness can make all the difference when faced with online scams. While Melissa's strategy may have seemed like a long shot, she had nothing to lose, and it ultimately paid off, recovering her money. This goes to show that not all scammers are invincible, and even those new to the game can be outsmarted by someone willing to stand up and fight back. That scammer must have been new to the game to fall for this one. Melissa's experience serves as a warning to potential victims, demonstrating the importance of being careful when buying something from an unfamiliar seller. As always, remember that if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Here are a few of the dumbest ways to get caught. Number 10. The Training Center. 6 criminals picked one of the worst spots to plan a kidnapping, right next to an NYPD training center. A group of 6 men found their 19-year-old victim by offering to buy his car via the Facebook marketplace. They told him to meet at New Utrecht Avenue and 72nd Street in Bensonhurst, New York. When the victim arrived, our group of dumb criminals sprang into action. They blindfolded him and called his cousin, demanding $100,000 in ransom money. The resourceful cousin realized he could track the victim's location and quickly located his phone at Floyd Bennett Field, near the NYPD training facility. Officers were alerted and rushed to the area. They arrested 6 men, and the victim only sustained a minor injury to his stomach. It sounds like those trainees got an early taste of real police work. Number 9. Dirk the Penguin. 2 Welsh tourists were on a working holiday in Queensland, Australia, when they got the crazy idea to break into SeaWorld and steal an unlikely pet, a penguin. But Reese Owens-Jones and Kerry Mules did more than steal a penguin. They also swam with dolphins and released a fire extinguisher into a shark enclosure, which could have done severe harm to them and the sharks. After getting drunk at a beach party, they broke into the park with a teenage Australian accomplice. They stole a 7-year-old fairy penguin named Dirk from the aquarium and brought him back to their apartment. The duo woke up hungover and tried to take care of Dirk by feeding and showering him. They released him into a canal when they realized they didn't know how to take care of a penguin. Locals saw them release the penguin and called the police. Dirk was rescued and reunited with his partner Peaches at SeaWorld. Jones and Mules wrote letters of apology to SeaWorld and the Australian public for their actions. They insisted they meant no harm. Still, they were fined $1,000 Australian dollars each. Number 8. The Good Side. When Donald Chip Pugh saw his mugshot posted online, he decided he could do better. So, he sent the police a selfie with the caption, quote, "Here is a better photo. That one is terrible." Police wanted Chip for failing to appear in court in Lima, Ohio for a DUI charge. They also suspected him of some vandalism and arson cases. In a Facebook post made by local police requesting tips on Chip's whereabouts, the police uploaded his old mugshot in addition to his new selfie. If Chip wanted that selfie to make the rounds, he certainly got his wish. Chip was no stranger to trouble. His previous encounters with police involved charges of disorderly conduct, breaking and entering, and violence. Chip wasn't worried about missing his court date. In fact, he thought he could go at his convenience. He told the local radio show, 2 Tons of Fun, that there would only be a 3-day penalty when he decided to turn himself in. The Escambia County Sheriff's Office in Century, Florida, finally caught up with him in January 2016. Number 7. The Return. A routine return at Walmart turned into a counterfeit case and physical altercation when employees discovered a sheet of fake money left inside a broken printer. Jared Carr brought his broken printer to a Walmart in Lake Hallie, Wisconsin, but forgot to bring his receipt. Employees rejected the return because Carr couldn't prove he bought the item at Walmart. He refused to leave until the return was accepted and employed some aggressive negotiation tactics with customer service. When Walmart workers inspected the printer and found pages of counterfeit $100 bills jammed inside, they called the police. Carr refused arrest, and for a good reason. When the police finally got him under control, they found more fake money in his pockets. He was charged with attempted theft by fraud, forgery, and resisting arrest. Number 6. The Indianapolis suburb of Fishers faced an interesting crime spree in the summer of 2021. Someone kept on their lawns, sometimes 3 or 4 times in a single morning. The would drop feces on neighborhood lawns every few days and leave a trail of dirty toilet paper behind. 3 or 4 lawns fell victim to the problem every week. The was also active in the summer of 2020. Citizens narrowed it down to a female jogger who couldn't make it home in time for number 2. Angry neighbors talked about how runners need to plan for having to go during a long-distance run. Others suggested she should at least bring a plastic bag to pick up after herself, as owners do for their dogs. A doorbell camera finally caught her in the act, and police arrested her shortly after. The police didn't share her identity. However, they tried to end the rumors of who it could be by ruling out 2 innocent names the locals spread around the neighborhood. Police also encouraged the to seek professional help. She may face charges in the future. Still, her situation is hardly unique. In 2018, a woman in Connecticut was charged with a misdemeanor for breaching the peace after 3 separate times in a cul-de-sac a few miles from her home. She blamed it on lactose intolerance. 2018 was a busy year for bandits. The jogger of Brisbane, Australia, was arrested after people photographed him going number 2 in public. He was a 64-year-old former corporate boss whose public indecency shocked the Australian people. In 2017, a Colorado Springs family was victimized by a woman called the Mad. For weeks, the offender left her droppings on their property, even though she was caught and asked to stop. Unfortunately, the children were the first to see the Mad in the act. They saw her squatting with her pants around her ankles and quickly ran to their mother. Mom came outside and confronted the assuming pure embarrassment would keep the Mad from returning. She was wrong. The Mad kept coming back and leaving her dirty toilet paper behind. At one point, the Mad defecated on the sidewalk in front of their home at least once a week for 7 weeks. Finally, the mother got a photo of the Mad running away. She posted flyers around the neighborhood addressed to the female jogger that continuously uses our walkway as her toilet, pleading for her to stop. Nothing worked, even after seeing the mad run past the signs several times. They finally got so fed up that they went to the Colorado Springs Police Department. They said the woman could face indecent exposure and public defecation charges. The weird part is that there are plenty of bathrooms in the neighborhood, including porta potties and a gas station. The mad had a long list of victims on the block, including the local Walgreens and the backyards of several other families. Once the story made local news, the mad went into hiding, never to well, at least not on someone's lawn. Number 5. The Teeth. In Mirfield, United Kingdom, a serial burglar left behind a key identifier after stealing some popsicles and a crate of beer. A few days after the victim, Stephen Pickles, discovered someone had broken into his home. He found the offender's dentures next to the freezer. Pickles alerted the police, who traced the fake teeth to a man named Justin Stansfield. Stansfield already had a lengthy criminal record of arrests and burglaries. He was a drug user and an alcoholic, always hunting for beer or things he could sell to pay for his habit. One previous burglary included disturbing a sleeping homeowner, who then beat him with a walking stick. Since Stanfield was so drunk when he broke into Pickles' home, he didn't remember leaving his teeth behind or the rest of what happened that night. He could remember drinking a beer at the scene and removing his dentures to enjoy a popsicle. For his idiotic crime, Stansfield got 16 months in jail. Number 4. The Facebook account. A rookie criminal threw himself under the bus when he forgot to log off his Facebook account after breaking into the home of James Wood. Nicholas Wigg broke into the house in St. Paul, Minnesota, and took his sweet time enjoying the family's belongings. He used the computer to check his Facebook and then forgot to sign out, which gave away his identity and any chance of getting away with the crime. The thief ran away with Wood's credit cards, cash, and watch, but left his jeans, Nike sneakers, and belt behind. It had been raining outside, so detectives assumed Wigg took his wet clothes off to enjoy some computer time in the victim's house. Wood came home and realized someone had robbed him and that the suspect had left his Facebook open on his computer. He made his own Facebook post saying that Wigg burglarized his home and listed his phone number to send any tips on the suspect. Then, Wigg reached out to Wood, asking to meet. He thought that if he returned Wood's belongings, he would get his clothes back, and this whole thing would go away. He was wrong. When Wood saw Wigg approaching, he immediately called the police. The cops arrested Wigg for breaking into Woods' home. He faced up to 10 years in prison and $20,000 in fines. While news of his actual sentencing faded into obscurity, Wigg will go down in history as the dumb burglar who needed to check his Facebook. Is his story more about the clumsy actions of a petty thief, or the grip social media truly has on some people? Number 3. The video game. Clint Butler was on the run after escaping British jail in November 2020. He had already served 14 years of a 17-year sentence for robbery and weapons possession. The fugitive was wanted for months before being caught by police in Birmingham. Butler decided to venture into town that day because he was bored during the COVID lockdown. All he wanted was the new Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War video game. Butler and a friend noticed police in the distance. They turned around rather suspiciously, causing police to chase after them. When the police caught up with them, Butler gave a fake name and said they were in town to buy Call of Duty. He also admitted to carrying marijuana. Police were about to run his phony name through the database when Butler went into a violent craze and attacked the cops. Police restrained him, put him in handcuffs, and called for backup from nearby officers. Butler is now back in jail with an extra 2 years added to his sentence for breaking out of jail and assaulting police officers. At least he has a few years of new Call of Duty games to look forward to when he's out. Number 2. The Tip Jar. Gabrielle Canales and her friends riding in the back of an Uber thought they could get away with stealing from her driver's tip jar. Little did they know that they were being recorded the whole time. A dashboard camera caught Canales reaching into the hard-working driver's tip jar while making eye contact with the camera. The video went viral, and she faced several threats for her behavior. Gabrielle apologized publicly and returned the $5 she stole, but nobody forgave her. She received tons of internet backlash, and she had to make several public apologies until the story faded from the headlines. Was stealing $5 from an Uber driver worth landing on the wrong side of internet fame? We imagine Canales wished she never reached her greedy hand in the tip jar. Number 1. The Pier. Where there's a pooper, there's a pier. Police in St. Petersburg, Florida, caught a man peeing on the bumper of a marked police car. They apparently had him in handcuffs before he even finished the job. David Marcel Lewis Johnson was caught in the act on February 8, 2020, at about 1 a.m. Johnson, a Detroit native, didn't cooperate with police questioning and pleaded not guilty to disorderly conduct for urinating in public. After a family member paid his $250 bond for the misdemeanor charge, the police let him go. The moral of the story: if you're going to pee on a car, don't pee on a cop car, especially not with actual cops inside.
Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather do. Have to listen to Cardi B's music non-stop for a month or go to jail for 2 days.